In Miami, rising property taxes and runaway fuel costs have driven grocery prices to record highs. But dining out? That's become nearly impossible for many. Restaurants, one vital part of the city's social life, are seeing sharp drops in foot traffic as inflation pushes even the most basic meals out of reach. This isn't just a Miami problem. From Detroit's post-industrial belt to Atlanta's overstretched supply lines, households are ditching takeout and sit-down meals in favor of cooking at home, not by choice, but by financial necessity. In Phoenix, the summer heat inflates utility bills just as much as it discourages restaurant visits, while in Los Angeles, retirees are cutting back not just on splurges, but on anything they can't prep themselves. Across these cities, restaurant closures aren't rare headlines anymore. They're weekly occurrences. What emerges from this shift isn't just a temporary belt tightening. It's a redefinition of how American cities eat. As restaurant prices outpace wage growth, and the gap between cost of living and income widens, residents are turning to meal prepping and budget cooking as long-term strategies. The return to home kitchens isn't rooted in nostalgia or food trends. It's about survival. And as community diners close, cultural landmarks fade, and local economies contract, a deeper question arises. Is this just economic adaptation, or the early stages of a permanent reshaping of American food culture? America's dinner table is changing. The restaurant booth is being replaced by the kitchen counter, the $20 sandwich by a $2 home-cooked meal, and a Friday night dinner out by a grocery list and a YouTube recipe. Across the country, in cities big and small, millions are abandoning the restaurant scene. Not because they want to, but because they have to. The economic pressure is relentless. Inflation, stagnant wages, rising rent, and surging food prices have collided to create one reality. Eating out is no longer an option for many Americans. In cities like Miami, Atlanta, Detroit, and New York, the once vibrant restaurant culture is under siege. In Miami, it's not just a rising cost of food. It's fuel prices, supply chain disruptions, and brutal property taxes choking restaurants at every turn. Prices skyrocket. Diners disappear. Meanwhile, families hunker down at home, forced to make the shift from dine-in to do-it-yourself. And it's not a lifestyle choice. It's economic survival. Atlanta tells a similar story. The city's dining scene has taken hit after hit from supply chain constraints and ballooning input costs. Restaurant owners are left with impossible decisions: raise prices and lose customers, or hold prices and risk closing altogether. As restaurant visits plummet, more households in Atlanta are turning to bulk grocery hauls and meal prep strategies. People are cooking not because they love it, but because their wallets demand it. Detroit has long been a city defined by resilience, but even that grit is being tested. The economic headwinds are fierce. With limited disposable income and fewer restaurant options than ever before, residents are returning to home cooking in droves. The math doesn't lie. It's cheaper to cook, even when grocery prices are high. In many Detroit households, the dining table is becoming a full-time workstation for frugal meal planning. In New York, where diners and delis once defined daily life, the mood has changed. Sky-high rent and inflated operational expenses are gutting the industry. Restaurants are either scaling down or closing up shop. For New Yorkers who once took pride in their neighborhood bodega sandwich or late-night takeout, the sticker shock is impossible to ignore. More and more are trading restaurant runs for home-cooked alternatives, even if that means sacrificing time and convenience. It's about economic necessity. Los Angeles is feeling it too. Organic restaurants, once everywhere, are pricing themselves out of the average consumer's reach. Older demographics, in particular, are abandoning high-end menus in favor of cheap, home-cooked basics. The soaring cost of living, combined with elevated utility prices, has made restaurant outings a rare luxury. In a city known for wellness culture, residents are now prioritizing not just health but affordability, preparing simple meals at home instead of paying restaurant markups. Phoenix offers a stark example of how environmental stress collides with economic hardship, with extreme heat driving up utility bills and transportation costs adding pressure to restaurant supply chains. The cost of dining out is simply unsustainable. Residents aren't just battling inflation. They're battling 110-degree summers that make eating out both physically and financially unbearable. People stay home, cook more, and try to stretch every dollar. In Portland, the food scene was once celebrated for its local charm and indie spirit. That charm is fading fast. Rising costs have forced many beloved community spots to shut down or raise prices so drastically that regulars have stopped showing up. The cultural loss is devastating. Portland's once flourishing food identity is being stripped away by economic reality, one closure at a time. With fewer options and higher prices, the locals are reverting to their kitchens, not as a romantic return to domestic life, but as a necessary economic pivot. Seattle, too, is grappling with the downturn. Operational expenses have surged, driven by labor shortages and regulatory burdens. Even in a city with a robust tech sector, the everyday consumer is pulling back. Dining out is becoming a special occasion again, not a weekly routine. The slow bleed of local eateries has reshaped Seattle's neighborhoods. Cooking at home isn't just a cheaper choice. It's quickly becoming the only one. This isn't a one-off blip. It's not a quirky pandemic-era trend. This is a deep, systemic shift in American dining culture. The cost of living has simply outpaced wage growth for middle-income and working-class Americans. Eating out is no longer financially feasible. That shift is seen most clearly among seniors, low-wage workers, and families juggling multiple jobs. These groups are leading the return to cooking, not because they suddenly fell in love with the kitchen, but because it's their only chance at stability. The ripple effects are massive. The restaurant industry, already hollowed out by the pandemic, is facing another existential threat. Rising rent, skyrocketing food prices, labor shortages, and supply chain delays are squeezing the life out of small businesses. Some hike prices just to stay afloat, knowing it'll drive customers away. Others quietly shudder without a fight. The result is a cycle. Fewer restaurants, higher prices, fewer customers. And through it all, Americans are slowly, grudgingly, trading restaurant culture for grocery store survival. So is this the new normal or a temporary reaction to inflation? The data points to permanence. Meal prepping is rising. Cooking channels are booming. Bulk grocery sales are up. Americans are adjusting, not just to a temporary budget crunch, but to a world where dining out is reserved for birthdays, not Tuesdays. It's a return to budgeting, planning, cooking, and making do. A lifestyle shift, not a fad. And it's not just about food, it's about culture. In Chicago, the old-school diner culture is fading. In New York, the corner delis are thinning out. In Portland, neighborhood joints once filled with life now sit empty. These weren't just places to eat. They were places to gather. Their decline strips away more than convenience. It strips away community. The collapse of local eateries means fewer jobs, fewer community anchors, and fewer shared spaces. That's especially devastating in urban centers, where restaurants often serve as cultural institutions. As they go dark, neighborhoods lose part of their identity. Environmental pressures only worsen the trend. Heat waves in the Southwest raise utility bills for restaurants and residents alike. Transportation delays in the North drive up supply costs. Infrastructure struggles in rapidly growing cities like Phoenix mean higher operational overhead for everyone. These aren't isolated issues. They're compounding realities. And they push even more people away from restaurants, back into their homes, armed with cheap ingredients and tight grocery budgets. What emerges is a shift toward domesticity. People are cooking again, but this time out of necessity. Meal prepping, freezer meals, crock-pot dinners. These aren't lifestyle hacks anymore, they're survival tools. The American kitchen is transforming from a place of convenience to the front line of financial defense. The long-term implications are enormous. This trend forces policymakers, urban planners, and community leaders to rethink food access, affordability, and infrastructure. Wage stagnation isn't just an economic issue. It's a cultural one. If people can't afford to eat out, what happens to cities built around dining districts and community restaurants? What happens when a generation learns to see food as a cost to minimize, not an experience to share? The restaurant collapse isn't just an industry problem. It's a societal one. It raises questions about affordability, access, and the kind of communal life we want. The shift toward home cooking may bring back some lost skills and budget control, but also signals a retreat from public life, from shared experiences, from culture itself. So where do we go from here? If inflation eases, if wages rise, if housing and utility costs stabilize, maybe some will return to the restaurant tables they once loved. But if those changes don't come, this shift will harden. Home cooking won't just be a trend. It'll be the new reality. The kitchen will be the new dining room, the new restaurant, the new community space. Until then, Americans will keep boiling rice instead of swiping cards at the register. They'll keep clipping coupons instead of scanning menus. And slowly, city by city, the sounds of clinking dishes in crowded restaurants will fade, replaced by the quieter rhythm of meals made at home. If you found this breakdown insightful, hit that like button, drop your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more deep dives into the changes shaping everyday life. Share this with someone who's also feeling the pressure of eating out in 2025, because this conversation matters now more than ever. Let's be brutally honest. What we're watching unfold in these cities is not just a shift in consumer behavior. It's not a quirky post-pandemic adjustment. This is a nationwide reckoning with how unaffordable daily life has become. And food, the most basic human necessity, is now a battleground in the broader war on affordability. Let's go back to Chicago. This is a city that practically invented comfort food, beef sandwiches, deep dish pizza, greasy spoon diners open 24/7. But those spots, they're vanishing. Rent for small restaurant owners is through the roof. Property taxes climb higher every year. And the working class families who used to stop by for a casual dinner after work, they're not coming anymore because they can't. A simple family meal that used to cost $40 is now $70, maybe $80. Multiply that over a week, and suddenly you're spending what used to be your entire grocery budget just to eat out a few nights. So people stop, they stay home. And slowly, that corner diner that's been around for 30 years quietly goes out of business. In Seattle, a latte and breakfast sandwich used to be a daily ritual. Now, it's a once-a-week indulgence, if that. Regulatory pressure on small businesses is sky high. Ingredients are more expensive. Minimum wage laws, while necessary and overdue, are colliding with a broken pricing system. Restaurants can't raise prices enough to keep up without driving customers away. So they fold, or they cut corners, cut staff, cut quality, until the soul of the place is gone. And once that's gone, the customers are too. Over in Los Angeles, residents are watching their favorite vegan cafes and artisanal restaurants disappear. The ones that stick around, they've doubled their prices, and that's no exaggeration. A single meal, something healthy, organic, sustainable, can now set you back $30 or more. And that's without a drink. That's without tip. So who's still eating there? Not the middle class. Not retirees on fixed incomes. Not the young families struggling with rent, childcare, and sky-high gas. Prices. That's the brutal truth. Eating well in LA has become a luxury. So the rest are learning to cook. Maybe reluctantly, maybe bitterly. But they're learning. Rice, beans, pasta, frozen veggies. Whatever stretches a budget and fills a fridge. That's what dinner looks like now. Portland, once famous for its indie food carts and quirky cafes, has become a cautionary tale. Inflation has choked the life out of its food scene. The charm is fading fast. The prices are up, the lines are shorter, and the closures come monthly. What used to be a bustling hub of culinary creativity is now a city of shuttered storefronts and rising despair. People miss it, but they're not willing or able to pay $16 for a breakfast burrito. Not when eggs, tortillas, and potatoes cost a fraction of that at home. And that's the point. It's not that people don't want to eat out anymore. It's that they can't. The economic math doesn't work. Groceries may be expensive, yes, but they're still cheaper than a single dinner at a sit-down restaurant. And in places like Phoenix, where the heat is relentless and energy costs are breaking budgets, staying in has another advantage. It's cooler. Restaurants have to keep the AC blasting. That raises their overhead. That raises prices. That drives people away. It's a feedback loop, and the end result is a city that cooks because it has no other choice. Even New York, the city that never sleeps, is slowing down. Walk through Manhattan and you'll see the signs, literally, closed for renovations, temporarily shuttered, out of business. Sure, the Michelin stars and luxury joints are still there for tourists, for the ultra-rich. But the neighborhood diners, the $2 pizza slice, the 24-hour delis, they're disappearing. And when they do, something else disappears with them. The heartbeat of the city. The little places where strangers became regulars, where workers grabbed lunch, where students crammed for exams over cheap coffee. That's what we're losing. Not just food, but community. This isn't nostalgia. It's a warning. Because once these institutions close, they don't come back. Not in this economy. Not with this rent. Not with these costs. And the people, they adjust. They learn to cook. They meal prep. They get creative. They batch cook on Sundays. They buy in bulk. They watch cooking tutorials and learn to stretch $1 into a week's worth of food. They turn the kitchen into a survival zone. Is it empowering? Maybe, but that's not the point. The point is, they were forced into it. This isn't a domestic renaissance. It's a financial retreat, and it's happening everywhere. In Miami, even luxury diners are tightening belts. Property taxes and shipping costs have turned routine restocking into a logistical nightmare. Restaurant margins are razor thin. The result? Fewer customers, higher prices, shorter hours. Meanwhile, residents stock up on groceries and learn to make arroz con pollo from scratch because paying $28 for it at a restaurant just isn't an option anymore. In Atlanta, the hustle city, lunch breaks are shrinking, not just in time, but in dollars. Fast food isn't even cheap anymore. That $5 combo, it's $10 now. And when your paycheck hasn't budged, the math is simple. Leftovers win. You bring lunch from home. You skip takeout. You adapt or you go broke. And look, this isn't just about economics. It's about how these choices are shaping culture. Food is a shared experience. It's how people connect, celebrate, unwind. When restaurants disappear, those connections fray. Communities lose their meeting points. Families stop celebrating out. Friends stop catching up over meals. People isolate, stay home, grind through the week, one frozen dinner at a time. Is it healthier? In some cases, yes. People are learning to cook with less oil, less salt. They're skipping the sugary drinks and opting for water. But that doesn't erase the bigger story. Because when food becomes only about survival, joy disappears. And that's what so many Americans are feeling right now. A loss of joy, a loss of spontaneity, a loss of culture, a loss of choice. And here's what's really alarming. It's not clear this will ever fully reverse. Even if inflation cools, even if prices stabilize, the damage may already be done. Once people learn to live without restaurants, many won't go back. They'll keep cooking because it's cheaper, yes, but also because it's now habit, because they no longer trust the system. They've been burned by price hikes, tip creep, delivery fees, and mandatory surcharges. They've seen their favorite spots close. They've adapted, and now that adaptation has teeth. So what does the future look like? More grocery stores, fewer cafes. More cooking classes, fewer lunch meetings. More leftovers, fewer dinner dates. The social fabric of our cities is being rewoven one home-cooked meal at a time. And while some will frame this as resilience, let's not forget the context. This shift was born from economic pressure, not cultural preference. It's up to policymakers, city leaders, and yes, us, the people, to decide what comes next. Do we fight for wage increases, small business support, affordable rent, and better infrastructure? Or do we resign ourselves to a future where restaurants become elite spaces and home kitchens become the last refuge of the middle class? We can't afford to ignore it, because this isn't about eating trends. It's about cost of living. It's about dignity. And it's about the right to share a meal without breaking the bank. Let's stop pretending this is just about food. It's about survival. It's about people being backed into a corner by forces they can't control. Every dollar counts now. Every meal is a math equation. And the idea of casually eating out on a Tuesday night, for millions of Americans, that feels like a memory from another life. Think about the emotional shift. Eating out used to be easy. You didn't think twice. You met friends, grabbed takeout on your way home, maybe treated yourself on payday. Now, every restaurant visit feels like a financial risk. You're checking the menu before you even leave the house. You're calculating the total before you order. You're skipping drinks, skipping dessert, tipping more out of guilt than generosity, because you know the staff is struggling too. And when the check comes, there's no satisfaction, just sticker shock and regret. This pressure isn't isolated to low-income households. It's hitting everyone. Middle-class professionals, dual-income families, seniors, college students. People who used to have some wiggle room in their budgets are now slashing their spending just to keep the lights on. That includes meals. That includes coffee. That includes everything that used to feel normal. And as people pull back, the industry suffers. The local Thai place you loved, the taco truck that parked outside your office every Friday, the coffee shop where the barista knew your name, they're closing or raising prices so high it stops being worth it. And when they go, it's not just a business that disappears. It's a ritual, a relationship, a piece of your day. This crisis is rewriting what normal looks like. In the past, a meal out was routine. Now it's a luxury. Grocery trips are planned down to the last item. People are swapping name brands for generics, cutting meat, cooking in batches, and saving leftovers like it's wartime again. Because in some ways it is. And let's be real, this doesn't end when prices go down. If they even do, this changes people. Once you've gone 6 months cooking every meal yourself, realizing how much you saved, realizing how fragile the system really is, you don't just go back. That trust in the economy, in convenience, in comfort, it's broken. People are waking up to how deeply the cost of living has eaten into their lives. Food is just the most visible crack in the foundation. So here we are, a nation of tired workers, stressed parents, broke students, and retired folks on fixed incomes, all figuring out how to survive a system that was never built for them in the first place. And if that's you, if you felt this, lived this, made those same decisions, you're not alone. Smash that like button, drop a comment with how this shift is hitting your city, and subscribe to stay locked in on stories that actually matter. The kitchen might be the new battleground, but your voice still counts. Let's talk about it right here, right now,